Yo, what's good, gang? You are not ready for what I'm about to break down for you today because we're talking about Luke Tim. And this man has been moving different lately. Like the signs are all there. He's been hinting, he's been posting, he's been talking. And when you put it all together, bro, it is not looking good for F. But before I get into what Tim's been doing right now, I got to take you all the way back because if you don't know the full story, none of this is going to hit the way it's supposed to hit. We're going from King VA's death to LPAB getting killed to where we are right now with Lou Temp. So strap in, gang. This one is going to be a long one. And trust me, you do not want to tap out early because the end of this video, that's where it gets really insane. Let's get into it. So, let's start from the very beginning because to understand everything that's happening right now with Lil Tim, you got to understand what started all of this. And it all traces back to one night, November 6th, 2020, Atlanta, Georgia, Monaco Hookah Lounge. That night, King Vaughn, one of the most talented and most loved rappers to ever come out of Chicago, was shot and killed. And I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Gang, that night was devastating for an entire culture. APD says a gun battle took place in 3 different spots near Trinity Avenue where a total of 6 people were shot. 3 have died. One of them, a rapper Devin Bennett, who goes by the stage name King Vaughn. GBI says King Vaughn and a group of men left Opium nightclub and went to Monaco Hookah Lounge early Friday morning. Investigators say after they arrived, 2 men approached the group in the parking lot and an argument ensued. From there, shots were fired. King Vaughn wasn't just a rapper. This man was a storyteller. He had the whole world locked in. Every single song felt like you were watching a movie. He had just dropped Welcome to OBlock. He had just done What It Means to Be King with Lil Dake. He had the whole industry at his feet. And just like that, gone at 26 years old. But here's where the story really begins for what we're talking about today. Because King Vaughn didn't just get randomly shot. There was a confrontation. And the man at the center of that confrontation, the man who pulled the trigger on King Vaughn, was Timothy Leaks, better known as Lou Tim. Now, let me break this down for you all because this is important. What actually happened that night? Vaughn and his crew pulled up to the Monaco Hookah Lounge and they ran into members of Rondo's Kim. Now, Vaughn and Quando already had some serious tension between them. This was not their first issue. Words started getting exchanged. It escalated fast and gunshots started going off. In all the chaos, King Vaughn was hit multiple times. He was rushed to the hospital, but he didn't make it. And surveillance footage that later came out showed Timothy Leaks, Lou Tim, as a shooter. Now, here's something that a lot of people forget. After Van was shot, members of Van Camp shot back. And Quando Rondo's brother, Ron Diaz-Dorsey, was also shot and killed that night. So, it wasn't a one-sided situation. Both sides took major losses. But at the end of the day, the man the streets held responsible for King Von's death was Luke Tim. And Lil Durk's label, Only the Family, they never forgot that. They never let it go. And they made that very, very clear. Now, what happened to Lil Tim legally? This is where it gets crazy. He was charged with felony murder. And I know you're all thinking, okay, so he's locked up, right? He did time for this. No cap. The legal situation got complicated. Georgia has self-defense laws and Tim's legal team argued that the shooting happened in the middle of a mutual fight, basically that it wasn't a premeditated murder. Eventually, in 2023, Timothy Leaks took an offered plea on a lesser charge, voluntary manslaughter, and he was sentenced to time served plus probation, which meant this man walked free. He never did significant prison time for killing King Vav. And when that news dropped, the internet went crazy. TF fans were furious. Dirk was furious. The whole Chicago drill community felt like justice had not been served. And that's when the temperature on this whole situation went from hot to absolutely boiling. Alright, gang. So, now let me introduce you to the next major piece of this story because we need to talk about LPAB. And if you're not from Chicago or you're not deep in that world, you might be asking, who is LPAB? Let me break it down for you. LPAB, real name Princess Robinson, was a young man from Chicago. And the reason he matters in this story is because of his connections. LPAB was affiliated with Rondo Circle. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not here to disrespect anybody's memory, but the facts are the facts, and those connections are what put him in the middle of this entire situation. Now, here's where it gets really serious. Lup was killed, shot, and killed. And when word got out about what happened to him, the street started talking immediately, because this didn't feel random. This felt like retaliation. This felt like a message. And whether or not anyone has been officially charged or convicted in connection to his death, the streets drew their own conclusions fast. And that's when Tim started speaking in gang. What Tim started saying publicly, that's what this whole video is really about. Now, let me talk about the relationship between Lil Tim and Lil Pab, because this is crucial. These two were not strangers. They were from the same circle. They had the same affiliations. They ran in the same world. So, when Pab got killed, this wasn't just some random loss for Tim. This was personal. This was his people. And you have to understand, when you grow up in that environment, when you lose somebody that close to you, the response is not always to go to the police and file a report. The response in that world is way more direct, and Tim has been making it very clear that he intends to be direct about it. So, let's get into what Tim has actually been doing and saying, because this is where the current situation gets wild. Tim has been on social media posting, hinting, moving in a way that is raising serious eyebrows. And when I say hinting, I don't mean as being vague. Some of what has been putting out there has been about as subtle as a break through a window. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say definitively that Tim has done anything, because legally I don't know that you don't know that. Nobody watching this video knows that for certain. But what I can tell you is what he has been publicly putting out there. And gang, when you look at the pattern of his post, the things he's been saying, the energy he's been putting out, it tells a story. He's been talking about Pab. He's been referencing the loss. He's been making it clear that this is not something he's just going to grieve quietly and move on from. The posts have had a certain energy to them. An energy that a lot of people in the comments have been reading, as I'm not just talking in the timing of some of these posts relative to certain things that have been happening. Gang, the streets have been putting two and two together. Now, this is where you have to understand the stakes. F is Lil Durk's camp, only the family. These are the people who have never forgiven Lieutenant for King Vaughn. These are the people who for years have been very public about their feelings toward Tim. So when you have Lil Tim, the man who killed King Vaughn, now making noise about Slide Out, that is an absolutely explosive situation. That is not just beef between two random people. That is a continuation of one of the most high-profile conflicts in the entire drill music world. And I need you all to really sit with that for a second, because the stakes here are enormous. We're not just talking about rap beef. We're not talking about diss tracks. We're talking about a situation that has already taken lives and shows absolutely no signs of cooling down. Now, let me give you all some more context on F and why they specifically are the target Tim seems to be focused on, because some of you all might be newer to the story and I want to make sure everybody is following. F Only the Family is Lil Durk's label and crew, and King Vaughn, before he passed, was one of the biggest names affiliated with FN, and Durk were extremely close, like deeper than just business partners. These were brothers. Durk took Vaughn's death harder than almost anything, and he has been very vocal in his music and interviews on social media about never forgetting what happened. After Van died, Durk dedicated music to him. He kept his memory alive constantly, and the entire F camp adopted a posture we remember, and that posture has never changed. So when Tim walks free after taking an alpha plea and then starts making noise on the internet, you better believe noticed. You better believe that raised the temperature on everything. And now with Lup being gone and Tim seemingly responding to that loss in the way he's been responding, this is putting it directly in the crosshairs of someone who has already demonstrated is not afraid to pull a trigger in a major situation. Well, that's actually insane when you step back and look at the full picture. You're seeing this? Like, this is not a drill. This is not a rap beef. This is real life with real consequences. Let's build back up for a second, though, because I want to make sure you'll understand the full gravity of what King Vaughn's death meant. Not just to, but to the culture as a whole. Because sometimes when you just say rapper gets killed, it doesn't fully land. So, let me make it land. King Vaughn was different. I'm not just saying that because he passed. I'm saying that because anybody who actually listened to his music knows that man had a gift that comes along maybe once in a generation. The way he told stories, took her to the old problems, crazy story. He made you feel like you were there. He had this ability to paint a picture with words that most rappers spend their whole career chasing and never reach. He was 26, and he had already built a catalog that most rappers twice his age would dream of having. And beyond the music, Van was from OBlock in Chicago. He came up in one of the most difficult environments in the country. He had survived things that most people couldn't even imagine, and he had turned that survival into art. He was on the verge of becoming truly massive. Not just Chicago massive, not just drill massive, but mainstream everybody knows your name massive. And Lou Tim took all of that in a parking lot in Atlanta at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not even lying. When you go back and think about everything Vine could have been, everything he could have done, all the music he never got to make, it's genuinely heartbreaking. And that is why F has never let this go. That is why the streets have never let this go. Because what was lost that night was not replaceable. Now, back to Tim, because I want to talk about the social media piece more specifically, because I think this is really what's driving the conversation right now. In the drill world, social media is basically a second battlefield. And for a long time after Van's death, Tim kind of kept a lower profile, which makes sense. He was dealing with legal stuff. But once he resolved his legal situation and got out from under that, he started becoming more visible online again. And the posts started coming, and the energy of those posts has been aggressive, confrontational. Now, again, I want to be responsible here. I'm not saying he posted a direct threat. I'm saying the vibe, the energy, the subtext of what has been putting out there has been pretty unmistakable to anyone who understands a culture and speaks the language of it. And what's been specifically getting people going is the fact that some of his posts seem to reference things that happened after Lap's death. Like the timing, the content, the energy has been leading people to believe that Tim has already been moving. That is not just talking about what he's going to do. That may be, and I want to be very clear, this is street speculation based on what people are reading from his posts. Maybe he's already done something. Now, whether that's true or not, I can't tell you. But I can tell you that enough people in the comments, enough people in the streets, enough people who follow the situation closely have been saying the same thing. And when that many people are reading the same thing into somebody's behavior, it's worth paying attention to. Let me also talk about where Quando Rondo fits into all of this. Because you can't have this conversation without mentioning Quando. Quando Rondo, real name Taquian Bowman, is a rapper who was present in night King Vaughn was killed. Now Quando himself has always maintained that he didn't shoot Vaughn. And based on everything that came out publicly, Lou Tim is the one identified as a shooter, but Quando was there. And F has always held Quando responsible in some way for what happened because it was his crew, his people, his night. Quando has had his own legal issues since then. He has been in and out of legal situations, and his relationship with Lou Tim, the man who was essentially part of his entourage that night, is complicated by the fact that what happened that night has followed all of them forever. Now, Lou Pab, for what's been discussed publicly, was also within his general orbit, the Quando-affiliated circle, which is why his death has so much weight in this particular conflict. Because if someone from FS side was responsible for Pab's death, and again, I'm not saying anyone has been charged or convicted, then Tim's response to that is essentially Tim responding to F, which loops everything back around to King Vaughn, which means the cycle has absolutely no end in sight. And that's honestly one of the most tragic parts of this whole story. Not just the individual losses, as devastating as each one is, but the cycle itself. The way that one event in a parking lot in Atlanta in 2020 has created a chain reaction that just keeps going. Van's death led to tensions. Those tensions led to more conflict. More conflict leads to more losses. More losses lead to more retaliation. And the cycle just feeds itself. And every single person who gets caught in that cycle, every single person was somebody's son, somebody's brother, somebody's friend. El Pab was somebody's person. And now he's gone. And now Tim is out here by all appearances ready to make somebody else go through the same thing that he went through when he lost Pat. Yo, this is where I got to take the energy down just a little bit because I think it's important to acknowledge that real human beings are at the center of all of this. And the way these stories often end, they don't end with somebody winning. They end with more names being added to a list that's already way too long. But let's come back to the present situation because where things stand right now is what everybody is watching. Tim is out here. He's vocal. He's posting. He's moving in a way that is making a lot of people nervous. And the question that everybody is asking is what happens next? Now, I want to give you all some perspective on what FS awareness level is on this. Because from everything that's been put out publicly, Derek and the rest of the camp are not naive about what's going on. These are not people who are unaware that Lil Tim is still out here, still moving, still motivated. They know, and when you know somebody is coming for you, you don't just sit around and wait. So the situation right now is essentially two very charged sides with a lot of history between them, a lot of losses between them, and now a new development in Lup's death that has turned the dial up even further. This is where it gets insane for real. Because when you think about the sheer amount of history packed into this one situation, King Van's death, the trial, the Alfred plea, Tim walking free, Pat getting killed, Tim's post, all of that is building towards something. And nobody knows exactly what that something is going to look like. But the indicators are not pointing toward a peaceful resolution. Let me also talk about the broader implications of all of this because I think it's worth zooming out for a second and talking about what this means beyond just these specific individuals. In a world of drill music, violence, and music have always been intertwined in a way that is both authentic and dangerous. These artists are rapping about their real lives, their real environments, their real beefs. And that's what makes the music feel so real. But it also means that when the music references real beef, real conflict, the real-world consequences are right there waiting. And Lil Tim is an interesting case study in that sense because he's not just a random person involved in this conflict. He has a music career of his own. He's been releasing stuff. He's been out here as an artist, and yet the streets know him primarily through the context of what happened that night in Atlanta. His identity in this story is inseparable from that moment. And now with everything that's happened with Pat, Tim is once again becoming a major focal point of one of the biggest ongoing conflict in drill culture, and the fact that he seems to be leaning into that. Posting, hinting, suggesting rather than trying to stay quiet and stay safe, that tells you everything you need to know about where his head is at right now. So where does this all leave us? Let me bring it home for you all. We started with King Van, one of the greatest to ever do it, taken way too soon on November 6, 2020. We talked about Lil Tim, the man identified as a shooter, who eventually walked with an Alfred plea in time. Served. We talked about Lupab, affiliated with Rondo Circle, connected to Tim and now gone. And we're talking about what Tim has been putting out there since Pab's death. Post-energy hints that are leading a lot of people to believe that he has either already slid on or is very actively preparing to. And King Vaughn's family, Lil Durk's people, are sitting at the center of all of this. A camp that has already lost one of its most beloved members to this exact conflict. A camp that watched the man responsible walk free. A camp that is now being told essentially through Tim's social media behavior that the conflict is not over. Gang, I don't know how this ends. I genuinely don't. But I know that the pattern of how these situations have gone in the past should make everyone watching this feel the weight of what's happening here, because history in these situations does not have a good track record of resolving peacefully. What I do know is that King Vaughn deserved better. El Pab's family deserves better. And honestly, everybody involved in this cycle deserves better than what it keeps delivering to them. But wanting something better and a situation actually being better, those are two very different things. And right now, the situation looks like it's heading somewhere dark. And that's a full breakdown of where we are with Lil Tim trying to slide on Full Lab. From King Vaughn's death all the way to right now. But yo, if this video gave you the full picture on what's going on, you already know what to do. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new, because we cover all of this in depth and we don't miss. And if you want to see more content breaking down the full stories behind everything happening in the drill world right now, I got you. The next video is already on its way, and trust me, you're going to want to see it. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.